Hello, everyone, and welcome to Practical Inclusion. I've got Jo Bangles with me today, who is my first repeat guest. Hi, Jo. We're just going to have a chat today, basically. This is going to be so incredibly casual. Before I start, though, obviously, I will acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we broadcast from today, which is the land of the Wadawurrung people, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are watching either live or on the replay through LinkedIn, Facebook, or on YouTube later on with the captions. Welcome, Jo. Thanks for coming on today.
No worries. Happy to help out. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a chat.
It was. I think it was maybe the second episode I did or something you jumped on.
Yeah. I must say, congratulations on everything that you've been doing. Like those sessions I've been tuning in there. They make fantastic podcasts because sometimes I can't always watch, but I've been listening in the car while I've been driving. And congratulations. I think you've done some incredible work there with so many incredible leaders in our community. So keep doing what you're doing. It's great.
Oh, it's absolutely just down to the people who agree to come on when they get a weird LinkedIn request from me.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Like I can say it every week. I've learnt so much, but met so many wonderful people doing work in this space too, which is just so fun.
Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah. So we thought today we'd just get on and have a bit of a chat and a bit of an update. And I'm curious as to what I know people who do follow you on social media have seen that you have stepped down as president of Geelong Rainbow Inc. And I think you also put out a post stepping down from president of Dykes on Bikes. So I think people are probably curious as to what you are up to. What's happening in the world of Jo Bangles now?
It's absolutely no secret. Look, I've done collectively almost 12 years in community, as far as working with Dykes on Bikes Melbourne and also Geelong Rainbow Inc. And the Geelong Rainbow Festival. So that's a long time and a lot of hours and a lot of effort to be putting in as a volunteer. And sometimes, depending on the time of the year, Pride season, festival time, like it becomes almost a full-time job. So I've got a few other projects that are happening in my personal life. I'm a small business owner and entrepreneur as well. So I'm about to go into a bricks and mortar business here in Geelong, which will be an Australian first here. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I think that the biggest thing is for me, like it wasn't an easy decision to make, stepping down from these organisations, because I guess after being there so long, they almost become part of your identity, if that makes sense. Like, but you, as a leader, I think it's really important to know when the time is right to step away, because you've actually got to, I guess, weigh up, everything that you've got going on in your life and where your focus needs to be. And as a small business owner, and the direction that I'm going in, this venue is going to consume me for the next, few years at least. And I just will not have the time to put into these organisations that they deserve. So I made that very tough decision a little while ago to step down from both organisations. So I've wound up with Geelong Rainbow, and I'll be stepping down officially as president from Dykes on Bikes at the end of July. So still a little bit to go there. Just using this year as a handover, because I've been president there for 8 years. So as you can imagine, there's a lot to hand over, and a lot of knowledge that I do have to help the incoming committee, continue the organisation well into the future. So, yeah.
But there's the left there. Like, that's significant amount of volunteer hours you've put in there, Jo.
Oh, absolutely. And, I would not change a single thing. The people that have worked with me, the people that have challenged me, the skills that I've learned, the imposter syndrome that I've had to overcome, and just every single day has been something to learn, and if I could pass that on to anyone thinking about stepping into a leadership position in a community organisation, I'd do it in a heartbeat, because it's so rewarding, even the challenges, the tough times, the tough conversations. It's just constant learning and just constant growth. So I've come a long way and I've loved it. And as I said, I wouldn't change a thing. So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
But I'm not leaving community. I've been in discussions with a few other things. I won't let the cat out of the bag yet, but there's other things on the horizons for me. I'm not leaving community. I've got way too much passion, but I just can't be, I guess, operational, but I can be more strategic. So stay tuned.
Yeah, wonderful. Good to hear. Thanks for joining us, Peter, who's posted a comment on LinkedIn, and I'll definitely be grabbing you on one of these episodes shortly. So look out for the message in your inbox. Peter's been doing some incredible work with counting cultural diversity and also setting strategy, and has also been part of my inclusive leadership course recently, and has made an incredible contribution to that. So good to see you listening in. Please feel free, anybody, to put any comments or questions through on the chat, either on Facebook or LinkedIn, and we're really keen to get to them. And I don't have to put yours up on the screen. I know somebody got scared last week because I put their comment up on the screen. But yeah, send them through. That'd be great. So we thought we might chat a little bit about some inclusion things, and something that was coming to my head, one that kind of links on to what you were saying there about unpaid volunteer hours. And I was thinking this, I've made a post last week on LinkedIn about International Women's Day, and I provided some tips that I thought people should take into account if they are planning on International Women's Day events. Hopefully they're going to do a lot more than just an event. If you've got, part of the post was, if you've got energy and resources, do something more meaningful than the event. But if you are holding events, to make sure it is more inclusive. And Gemma Saunders actually posted on LinkedIn a post from Dixie Crawford, who I hadn't been familiar with before, but Dixie highlighted that in our quest to make International Women's Day events more inclusive, quite often requests go out to people from marginalised or disadvantaged communities, and in her case, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, asking them to present at events for free. And Dixie was talking about, obviously how disrespectful this is and how it's actually going against inclusion, like it's the opposite. And so I reckon that's an interesting topic of conversation, because I've had a few requests, and I'm sure you have too. And, the comments are always, budget's very tight. I wonder what we can do around this. Volunteer work's one thing, but presenting at events to make up the diversity numbers for free. Curious in your thoughts.
Yeah. Look, there's so many different aspects to this. We can go down the road of, a tokenistic gesture and all those kind of comments and words and stuff like that. But it's interesting because I just read a post from a good friend of mine, Norm Stanley, who's an Aboriginal educator, artist, musician. And he wrote an amazing piece on his Facebook this morning saying, I am not additional entertainment, and he talks about that and what he does as an educator and a musician and as an artist and all that. I'm not, just additional. He's there with everything. He's part of, whatever event or whatever you put on. So it kind of, it's same for, LGBTI people. To be the token gay in the village, we need to invite you along. And do you know what I mean? Like it just, it's a tricky conversation. It's like entertainers that, I've got a lot of friends that work in the entertainment industry in the LGBTIQ community, and when there's festivals on or fundraisers or whatever the event is, they quite often get asked to perform for free, And this is a community that we should be backing these artists. We should be paying them. We should be, paying them what they're worth, because, to me, like, and in the past, there's been some significant LGBTI festivals where they've paid big money for allies to come in and perform, yet our LGBTI performers are getting paid pittance, really, or because this is your community. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of pressure there for artists in that particular community to perform for free, you know, and I don't think that's fair. We should be backing them, paying them the most, you know. Yeah, and as far as volunteer work, you know, yeah, I've put in a bucket load of hours, but that's my choice, you know. You know, and yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. It's tricky. What are your thoughts?
It is tricky because, you know, you value so much visibility, and making sure that, you know, events, whatever they are representative. And if there's not someone from the LGBTI community there, then yes, I'm keen to make sure that there is visibility and we're involved. But yeah, the constant requests to do things for free or for cheap, to come in, even when people ask you to come and deliver inclusion training, but they're on a tight budget because of COVID and they can only pay you this amount. And I guess, you know, the strategy I've been taking is to push back as much as possible, because I wonder whether they're paying their other speakers less as well, or their other trainers who aren't in that diversity and inclusion space, because I think sometimes it is valued less, and maybe they think they can, you know, get away with it a bit more in this space because we are passionate about what we do, and so we're perhaps a little bit more likely to do things for free.
Well, and, you know, like it kind of goes against what we're working for, is that inclusion and being equals when they offer us a gig to, you know, better your or further your career. Does it or doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like whether you're getting paid or not paid, like whether, you know, and it absolutely goes against, because it makes you feel less than. And that's exactly what we're working against.
Yeah.
You know, worth every cent of what you're doing. You have lived experience, and that is priceless. You cannot get an ally to talk about that stuff, or someone, an outsider, or someone that's read a book. It doesn't work, you know. In that lived experience, you got to pay for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess that's our message to event organisers, you know, read those posts and pay attention. And if you do have room, you know, don't be trying to get people in for free if you can actually afford to remunerate them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, and this is just off the cuff, in the last week or two, what kind of, have you come across any examples of inclusion or exclusion that, because this is something somebody spoke to me recently about how, you know, once you're in this world, you notice so much, and you notice it daily. And, you know, for many people, they might go months and months without noticing somebody being excluded or some exclusive language, or, but it's interesting how frequently it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm very privileged. I've just been on holidays. So I've actually kind of taken a bit of self-care time, you know, after Christmas, and spent some time with my wife, and we've been in far north Queensland, which, you know, is a beautiful place up there. And I've got to admit, I really enjoyed walking down the main street, and there was posters everywhere for their annual queer festival, you know, which is really, really cool. And I read the program there, and it was amazing to see so many local venues that were involved. You know, and it was, you know, quite well-to-do places up there that were, you know, like putting their brand out there to show inclusion and to be involved with this festival. So I actually felt really relaxed up there, you know, which was fantastic. And yeah, I was able to enjoy my time completely as, you know, me and my wife. So yeah, that was really cool to see.
That's great. That's a real positive outcome then, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was good. What about you?
Yeah, I guess for me, one thing it's been quite a theme, I think, in the last week or so has been back around gender equality stuff. And particularly, I don't know, there was a Twitter post sent round of an excerpt of ScoMo belittling a woman journalist at the press club. And it was quite interesting timing because I'd just returned from a cricket match where a male coach who, with all good intentions, so there was certainly no ill intent or, deliberate misogynist type behaviour, but he had been treating his women senior team members really as juniors, and to the point where he was setting the fields for them. And he actually said to me, "Oh, but I do that for my juniors." And I said, "Yeah, but these aren't your juniors. These are senior women playing." And it was interesting because I was chatting to an education manager this morning in a sports organisation, and he was kind of alluding to the same thing, that a lot of the people that he's dealing with, it's kind of like it's unintentional misogyny in this way that it's that gentleman thing. So he had somebody who had made a complaint because this one particular man kept doing things for the women and telling the women that they didn't have to do it or they couldn't do it, and that he would do it for them. And it's this kind of subtle, hierarchy thing. It's patriarchy, isn't it, in a way?
Absolutely. And it's a different generation type thing too. And how do you navigate that? Like, these older people that have grown up in completely different times to us, the language that they use, like, I can't stand being called darling or sweetie, like, but the older generation does, and I let them get away with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but if I was in town and I was going shopping, because there's a whole younger generation that has picked up this language, and if there's a young girl that's, helping in a shop somewhere and calls me darl or sweetie, I will pull her up every time. Like, what is that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just
interesting.
And we watched what's that jungle show? I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And we talk about Dipper and Abby. How he called her out every time because she was walking around in her bikini and saying, "You can't go out like that." That you stop. Something to that effect. And then after the second or third time, she pulled him up on it. And the navigation around that with some of the generation that were in between Abby's age and Dipper's age that talked about how it's a different generation kind of thing, and congratulated her on having the courage to pull him up. Do you know what I mean? So it was interesting how all these comments were, all these conversations were navigated between the different generations, and I found that fascinating. Yeah. And I think about, the people that would watch that show and the people that are voting, and I think that's why she won. And, and it's this whole new movement of these young, strong women that call that shit out, and I have no doubt in my mind that won her a bucket load of votes.
Yeah,
well, I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
but at the same time, Dipper was this lovely old guy, well-known celebrity football player, that grew up in a bloke's world of football and different generation. And do you know what I mean? So it's just, conversations
and it's, for me, I feel like I'm the language police, and I feel like I'm calling it out too often, and I think particularly in sport, it's irritating me more and more. We're constantly referred to as a team of girls, and I just can't handle a man calling a group of women, sports athletes, girls. It just drives me up the wall. But you feel like you're just constantly calling it out. And it's to me, it is belittling and it's undermining, and but it's also that line where, as you said, like, it is a generational thing, and you do feel like you're constantly having to call it out, and whether you're actually getting anywhere or not.
Yeah. Do you think, because of the work that we do, we notice it? Because
exactly.
we look for that, with a trained eye. We know, and it's tricky, and it's all those, that pause, that space between, you hear something and you react, like everything you've got to analyze in your brain, like, do I jump in now? Is this my battle? Who's this person? Why are they saying it? And you've got to make that decision like that.
Yeah,
and that's not easy.
No. And I think I think I put it on my LinkedIn. I had an incident where I happened to be in the vicinity of a conversation that was really transphobic, in a social setting, and it was that moment where your heart starts racing because it was that transphobic. Calling it out was definitely going to create friction, and you're like, I've got to do it, but I hope somebody else does. I really hope somebody else says something, and it doesn't have to be me. But it's such that active bystander stuff that is really tricky and difficult, but we've just got to step in and do it, don't we?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes, you can actually go not too far, for want of a better word. It's like, do you choose that moment to step in, or do you let that comment slide? Otherwise, it can snowball and just be full on. And then you step away with that person later and go,
oh, we've just lost Jo there. Hopefully she'll jump back in. No, we might wait for her to come back, and she's 100% correct, because that's exactly what I did in that situation. I waited until afterwards and spoke to the person, and had, in the end, a fantastic conversation with them that I think really it did open their eyes to a whole new way of thinking, and hopefully different language that they'll use. But it certainly would have been nice for somebody else to have that conversation with them as opposed to me. Thanks, Peter and Stephen, for your comments. Stephen on Facebook, great conversation about paying speakers, artists and community leaders. I think you're right. It really is about thinking, as organisations grow, how they are going to make sure that they're rewarding and remunerating people appropriately for the work that they're doing. And thanks, Peter. Language defines the reality we live in. It is so true. And that's, I think, why I continue to just push so hard and keep calling those things out. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. It looks like Jo's completely dropped off, but we're not too short anyway. If you are interested in learning more, Jo and I have been delivering LGBTIQA plus inclusion training. Oh, hang on. Here she is. Back.
Ta-da!
Got ya.
Magic show. Sorry about that. Internet's just gone.
That's all right. I was just wrapping up and saying that we have been doing our linked out inclusion training. I've had certainly a lot of fun doing this training, and feel like we've had some incredibly powerful conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Particularly with executive groups too, I think that's been the real, to me, the most rewarding, I suppose.
Do you find there's been a bit of a shift in some, I guess, mindsets with older, like we've been doing some training to some older men that have shown a genuine want to learn, and actually, seeing that some of that vulnerability that some of these guys have shown us, I think that's been fascinating to listen to that. And there's a slight shift, like we've got a long way to go, but the engagement that we've been having has been really, really good. Moving stuff.
Exactly. And just that willingness to learn.
Yeah.
You know, and even if there's been one or two in the group that have been a bit, you know, you can tell the body language from the start, it's a bit, they're sitting back in their chair, they're maybe not 100% into this and looking a little bit nervous about being there. By the end of it, everyone seems to have taken something from it at least and moved from wherever to a point.
Yeah. And I've found there's been a bit of a shift because, you know, when you talk about the LGBTIQ community, people go, oh, yeah, I know such and such, and it's always 3 or 4 people removed from the family kind of thing. But now they're talking about their sister, their you know, cousin or brother, or do you know what I mean? And it's like really, really close family, or themselves. You know, they've got that they're being able to come out and talk in this kind of environment and that safe space that we create. Oh, there's someone at the door. Sorry. That safe space that we create for them to talk about that. They feel comfortable. Like, pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like a privilege each time to be able to and share the knowledge and experience that we have and see that the actions that they're going to take forward. Hopefully from it. So if anybody is interested, you know, please contact either of us. We're keen to come out and get this program and this workshop around to as many workplaces as possible. We've delivered it to sporting clubs and interested in doing it in schools as well. So please reach out and make contact. You can, if you're not already following Jo, if you're following me, follow Jo too. She's got some great content and some great
follow Bree.
It's like, isn't it? It's back to front.
Yeah.
Follow Jo. I'll be back again next week with a new guest and we'll chat some more inclusion. So thank you very much for engaging, and if you feel like sharing this around or commenting, please do. That would be really helpful for us. Thanks, Jo.
Anytime, Bree. Thank you, and keep up the amazing work.
Oh, you too, mate. See you soon.
See ya.